On a cold, fog-drenched night in the late autumn of 1760, something unspeakable unfolded in a tiny, remote settlement nestled deep within the wild forests of Connecticut. A place so shrouded in darkness and misfortune that even centuries later, its very name sends a ripple of unease through those who hear it whispered, Dudleytown. Imagine a village where hope was supposed to flourish, a fresh start for settlers seeking a new life, only to have every dream turn into a nightmare. Families vanished, crops withered without reason, and an invisible darkness seemed to seep into the soil itself, poisoning everything it touched. That night, the shadows grew longer. The wind carried more than just cold. It carried a curse, one that would forever bind Dudleytown in a web of terror and mystery. From its earliest days, Dudleytown was marked by inexplicable tragedy. Settlers arrived with high hopes, but those hopes quickly withered under a relentless series of misfortunes. Livestock died suddenly, children fell ill to mysterious sicknesses, and whole families disappeared overnight. Neighbors whispered of ghostly apparitions and strange lights flickering between the twisted trees. Some claimed to hear agonized screams carried on the wind, while others swore they saw shadowy figures moving just beyond the edge of the forest, watching, waiting. The very earth seemed cursed, a silent predator lurking beneath the roots, consuming the life and sanity of anyone who dared make Dudleytown their home. Generations passed, but the dark legacy only deepened. Survivors spoke of a malevolent force gripping the village, as if a terrible punishment had been cast upon the land. Paranormal investigators and curious explorers who have since trespassed into the ruins tell of disorienting mists that rise without warning, bone-chilling drops in temperature, and an overwhelming sensation of dread that settles in the chest like a stone. "It's like something is alive here," one visitor confessed, voice trembling. "Something ancient and angry. You feel it watching, waiting for you to slip, to become its next victim." Another recounted, "The air is thick with sorrow and rage. It's suffocating. You can't stay long before it starts getting inside your head." Even the skeptics struggle to explain the eerie consistency of stories surrounding Dudleytown. The unexplainable disappearances, tragic accidents, and sudden mental breakdowns of those who dared live or linger near the village defy logic. Locals living around the cursed site avoid the subject altogether, some crossing themselves or muttering prayers if the topic comes up. Landowners have gone so far as to post "No trespassing" signs and take legal measures to keep people out. Access to Dudleytown is strictly prohibited, not just because of its dangerous terrain, but because the darkness that once consumed its inhabitants still clings to the land like a shadow you can't shake. The ban only adds fuel to the fire of intrigue, turning Dudleytown into a forbidden siren's call for ghost hunters, thrill seekers, and mystery lovers alike. But here's the haunting twist. The real terror of Dudleytown lies not only in the ghost stories or the sinister legends. It's in the terrifying reality that this forsaken village continues to grip the imagination of people around the world. What started as a historical oddity has evolved into a modern-day obsession, blurring the line between myth and fact so completely that it's impossible not to question what's really happening beneath those broken foundations and tangled woods. What dark secret lies buried beneath the cracked stone walls and gnarled branches? What curse was unleashed that fateful night centuries ago, dooming everyone who dared call Dudleytown home? The answers remain elusive, hidden beneath layers of fear and silence. Many say the curse is the result of generations of greed, betrayal, and tragedy that twisted the very soul of the town. Others whisper of ancient curses, dark rituals, or something far more sinister, something that defies explanation. The truth may be lost to time, buried alongside the ruins, but the feeling of dread remains, thick and palpable to this day. Dudleytown isn't just an abandoned village. It's a living nightmare, a place where the past bleeds into the present, and the darkness refuses to die. If you've ever been drawn to the unknown, to places where history and horror collide in a deadly dance, Dudleytown stands as one of the ultimate enigmas waiting to be unraveled. But be warned, once you dive into its story, once you let yourself feel the weight of its curse, you may never look at forgotten places the same way again. The line between reality and nightmare blurs here, and that is what keeps people coming back, desperate to uncover what lies beneath. So, if you want to hear more spine-tingling stories, real accounts from those who face the unknown, and explore the darkest corners of history and legend with us, make sure you like this video, drop a comment with your thoughts or your own experiences, and hit subscribe to stay connected. The deeper we dig, the darker it gets, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Are you ready to face the curse? When the first settlers arrived in what would later be called Dudleytown, they came with hearts full of hope and dreams of a new beginning. They envisioned a peaceful life, building homes, planting crops, and carving out a future for their families in the wild, untamed forest of Connecticut. But from the very start, something was horribly wrong. The air felt heavier here, the shadows darker. It was as if the land itself was watching, and not welcoming. Almost immediately, tragedy began to seep into their lives like a slow poison. Families who had just moved in vanished without a trace overnight. One day, neighbors would laugh and share meals. The next, entire households were gone, leaving behind nothing but cold, empty rooms and silence that screamed louder than any voice ever could. Imagine the crushing confusion and terror they must have felt, the kind that gnaws away at your sanity when you don't know who or what took your loved ones. There were no signs of struggle, no clues left behind. It was as if the earth swallowed them whole, erasing every footprint, every cry for help. The despair spread like wildfire. Mothers who once held their children tight found themselves clutching only emptiness. Fathers who had hoped to protect their families faced a nightmare that no amount of strength could fend off. Whispers began to swirl through the settlement. Was this the work of a curse? A punishment for sins long forgotten? Or something far worse, lurking just beyond the trees, watching patiently as it slowly tore the village apart? Those who remained lived in constant fear, waking each day uncertain if they'd see the sunset. The silence that followed each disappearance was deafening. It wasn't just the absence of people, it was a heavy, oppressive quiet that filled the air, as though the land was mourning or warning. You could almost feel it when you read the accounts, the hopelessness, the growing paranoia. Neighbors stopped trusting one another, eyes darting nervously at every rustle in the woods. Children who once played freely now huddled indoors, too frightened to step outside. Every creak of a floorboard, every snap of a twig became a reminder that something was terribly wrong. What's chilling is that the disappearances weren't isolated incidents. They happened over and over again, spanning years and decades. Each new family that moved in seemed doomed to suffer the same fate, caught in an invisible snare they couldn't escape. The more the village emptied, the heavier the curse felt, until Dudleytown became a ghost town in every sense of the word. Deserted homes swallowed by vines and decay, streets overtaken by shadows. It's hard not to imagine the desperation, the aching loneliness of those last few souls clinging to hope in a place that seemed determined to erase their very existence. The story of those early settlers isn't just a tale of loss. It's a raw, haunting reminder of how darkness can creep into even the brightest dreams, twisting them into nightmares no one can wake from. Their silence screams across centuries, daring us to listen, and to wonder what unseen force doomed Dudleytown from the very moment it was born. From the very beginning, Dudleytown was a place where the land itself seemed to rebel against the people who tried to call it home. Crops withered and died, as if an invisible hand had touched them with death, leaving fields barren when they should have been bursting with life. Farmers who once trusted the soil with their futures found their hard work swallowed by an unrelenting curse. Seeds that should have sprouted green and strong never broke the surface, and those that did soon shriveled and blackened under skies that seemed too heavy with despair. It wasn't just bad luck, it was something deeper, something unnatural. The earth refused to give back what the settlers poured into it, as if punishing them for some unseen crime. Livestock, too, suffered mysterious fates. Cows and chickens dropped dead without warning, their bodies found cold and lifeless in the morning with no signs of illness or injury. Hounds that once ran freely through the woods vanished, their barks fading into the silence of the trees, never to return. The settlers watched helplessly as their sources of food and livelihood disappeared, one by one, leaving them trapped in a spiral of scarcity and fear. Every attempt to raise animals or grow food seemed doomed, a cruel joke played by the land itself. But it didn't stop there. An eerie sickness crept through the village, striking the young and old alike with no mercy and no explanation. It was a sickness that baffled the settlers' limited knowledge of medicine, fevers that burned without cause, weakness that drained the body until breath was a struggle, and minds that slipped slowly into madness. Families watched helplessly as their children faded away, their bright eyes growing dull, their laughter silenced forever. The illness seemed to move like a shadow, invisible but unstoppable, an invisible enemy that no prayer or remedy could hold back. Fear grew like a living thing, infecting every heart. The villagers began to whisper of curses and dark forces, of sins that had poisoned the land generations before. Some spoke of ancestors who had wronged the earth, paying a terrible price for their misdeeds. Others believed something far more sinister had taken root, something ancient and hungry, feeding off their pain and suffering. Each failed harvest, every sudden death, was seen as proof that Dudleytown was a place where hope was swallowed whole and despair ruled. The emotional toll was crushing. Imagine the hopelessness that settled over the village like a thick fog, the crushing weight of watching your fields die, your animals fall, your loved ones weaken and vanish. It wasn't just physical hunger that gnawed at them, but a gnawing emptiness inside, a sense that the land they once dreamed of nurturing was now a prison of decay. The resilience of human spirit was tested daily, but even the strongest faltered in the face of such relentless loss. This was no ordinary hardship. It was a slow, relentless unraveling of life itself, a darkness that didn't just threaten bodies, but souls. Dudleytown became a place where nature turned its back on its people, a place where survival felt like a cruel illusion, always just out of reach. The land's refusal to nurture its own left the villagers isolated, terrified, and desperate, trapped in a nightmare they could neither escape nor understand. The story of those cursed fields and vanished livestock is not just a chapter in history. It's a haunting echo of how deep despair can sink its claws into a community, leaving scars that time can never heal. The whispers began quietly at first. Soft murmurs passed between neighbors, hushed conversations held behind closed doors. But soon, the stories grew louder, more vivid, impossible to ignore. In Dudleytown, something was watching. It wasn't just the wild animals, or the wind rustling through the trees. There were voices, ghostly screams that tore through the stillness of night like claws scraping at the soul. Those screams weren't just sounds. They were cries filled with pain, terror, and despair. People who heard them said the air seemed to vibrate with a terrible energy, like the cries of the lost souls trapped forever within the village's cursed borders. As the disappearances continued, so did the sightings. Shadows that didn't belong to any living creature flickered at the edge of vision, darting between the gnarled trees and crumbling ruins. Some swore they saw figures standing silently in the mist, tall and unmoving, watching but never approaching. Others spoke of glowing orbs of light floating eerily above the ground, bobbing and weaving like will-o'-the-wisps, luring the unwary deeper into the forest's embrace. No one could explain what these apparitions were, but they left behind a chilling certainty. Dudleytown was far from ordinary. It was a place alive with restless spirits, a place where the veil between the living and the dead grew dangerously thin. The nights were the worst. Darkness swallowed the village whole, turning familiar paths into labyrinths of shadows. Those brave enough to stay often described as suffocating silence broken only by distant, haunting wails. Sleep became impossible as fear took root in every corner of their minds. The feeling of being watched never faded. It clung to the skin like cold sweat, creeping into dreams and waking moments alike. Every flicker of movement, every crackling twig set hearts pounding with the terror that something unseen was just beyond the trees, waiting. Children, who are often more sensitive to the unseen, were the first to speak of the strange things. They talked about ghostly visitors that appeared in their rooms, shadowy figures that watched from windows, and voices whispering secrets no child should hear. Parents dismissed many of these tales as childish imagination, but when the children's fear became palpable, even the most skeptical began to worry. It was a fear that spread quickly, infecting the entire community with a creeping dread. What made it even more terrifying was the way the village itself seemed to respond. Trees twisted unnaturally, their branches reaching out like skeletal hands. Fog would roll in without warning, thick and impenetrable, swallowing the forest and erasing all landmarks. People lost their way easily, some never returning. The forest didn't just hide its secrets, it seemed to guard them jealously, an unyielding fortress of shadow and silence. Those who dared to speak openly about these occurrences were often met with disbelief or warnings to keep quiet. The stories became legend, passed down through generations like a dark inheritance. But the fear never died. It lingers in every broken window, every abandoned foundation, every rustling leaf. Dudleytown is a place where the past refuses to stay buried, where the screams of the vanished echo forever, and where the shadows watch patiently, waiting for the next soul to wander too close. It's a haunting reminder that some places are not meant to be touched by human hands, and some mysteries are darker than the night itself. Those who have dared to venture into the ruins of Dudleytown tell stories that blur the line between reality and nightmare, stories that seep into your bones and leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Visitors speak of sudden drops in temperature that steal the warmth from your skin in an instant, as if the air itself is frozen with unseen menace. One moment, the forest feels normal, the next it's like stepping into a cold tomb where every breath is a struggle, and your heart hammers with a primal fear you can't explain. It's not just the cold that unnerves people, it's the overwhelming sensation that you're not alone, that something invisible is watching your every move. Many describe a heavy, suffocating presence pressing down on their chest, making it hard to breathe, hard to think. It's as if the very energy of the place is alive, dark and restless, reaching out to drag you into the shadows. This isn't a gentle warning. It's an aggressive force that claws at your sanity, shaking you to your core. Paranormal investigators, who have spent nights in the village's remains, report encounters that defy explanation. Strange lights flicker in the distance, appearing and disappearing without pattern, while unearthly sounds echo through the trees, low moans, faint whispers, and sudden, sharp cries that send chills down the spine. Some have recorded footsteps following them, though no one else is there. Others speak of unseen hands brushing against their skin or cold spots that move unpredictably, as if something is stalking them, playing a terrifying game of hide-and-seek in the darkness. These experiences are so consistent that even skeptics can't dismiss them easily. The eerie atmosphere clings to you long after you leave, a lingering residue of dread that colors every thought. People often say the forest around Dudleytown feels like a living entity, watching, waiting, and judging. The place has a pulse, a slow, unsettling rhythm that seems to beat in time with the fear in your veins. There are tales of explorers who, after spending just a few hours in the area, suddenly felt overwhelmed by panic and confusion, losing all sense of direction despite familiar landmarks. Some have reported vivid nightmares afterward, dreams filled with shadowy figures, whispers calling their names, and a deep, aching sorrow that feels almost tangible. It's as if the curse of Dudleytown doesn't end with the land, but follows those who dare step inside, planting seeds of fear that grow even in the safety of their own homes. What's most unsettling is that no one can say exactly why this happens. There are no logical explanations, no scientific reasons for the sudden chills, the unseen presences, or the voices that call out from nowhere. The village's ruins hold their secrets tightly, revealing only glimpses of the darkness that lies beneath. For those who felt it firsthand, Dudleytown isn't just an abandoned settlement, it's a haunted threshold between worlds, a place where the past bleeds into the present, and the unseen waits just beyond the edge of sight. The weight of its presence is something you don't forget, a chilling reminder that some places are marked forever by sorrow and pain, and some forces refuse to be ignored. To step into Dudleytown is to step into a story still being written, one where fear lives and breathes, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. For those who have dared to explore Dudleytown's forgotten ruins, the experience often goes beyond eerie. It becomes something almost otherworldly. Paranormal investigators and thrill seekers alike recount tales that challenge the limits of explanation, stories filled with unexplainable phenomena that chill the blood and shake the soul. Imagine standing in the heart of a place abandoned for centuries, only to find yourself surrounded by sudden fogs that creep in like living shadows, swallowing everything in sight. This fog isn't the kind that gently rolls over hills. It's dense, thick, and disorienting, blotting out the world as if the very air conspires to trap you within the cursed boundaries of the village. These mists rise without warning, blotting out familiar landmarks, and twisting paths into endless mazes. Even those who know the forest well report losing their way, their compass spinning wildly, as if something unseen is rearranging the landscape around them. It's as if Dudleytown refuses to let go of those who enter, pulling them deeper into its grasp with every step. The sensation of being utterly lost isn't just physical, it's psychological, as if the fog seeps into the mind and clouds your thoughts, stirring confusion and panic. Beyond the fog, there are the sounds. Strange, inexplicable noises echo through the trees, soft whispers that seem to come from nowhere and everywhere all at once. Some hear faint footsteps crunching on dead leaves just behind them, only to turn and find nothing. Others report sudden, chilling cries that shatter the silence and vanish before they can fully register. These aren't the sounds of animals or the wind. They are something else entirely, echoes of the past, perhaps, or the restless voices of those who vanished without a trace. Investigators who spend nights in the ruins speak of an oppressive atmosphere, a presence so heavy it presses down on the chest and weighs on the spirit. It's a darkness you can feel, a living thing that lurks in the shadows, watching with eyes unseen. Some have reported sudden cold spots that appear and disappear, freezing the air around them, or the sensation of unseen hands brushing against their skin. The fear that settles over visitors is not a fleeting chill. It's a deep, soul-gripping dread that leaves many shaken for days afterward. What's perhaps most unsettling is the way these experiences are remarkably consistent across different visitors and time periods. Skeptics who arrived hoping to debunk the legends often leave haunted by what they've encountered. The phenomena aren't random or isolated. They form a pattern that speaks to something far beyond coincidence or imagination. The land around Dudleytown feels alive in a way few places do, a place where the boundary between the natural and supernatural blurs, where time seems to fold in on itself, and where the past never truly lets go. It's a place where human logic breaks down, and fear becomes the only certain truth. Those who enter often say it's not just the ruins or the forest that frighten them, but the sense that the village itself remembers every horror, every tragedy, every lost soul, and that it won't let them forget either. Dudleytown is not just a destination, it's an experience that reaches deep into your core, leaving you forever marked by its haunting embrace. Over time, as the dark stories and strange happenings around Dudleytown multiplied, those who owned the land took drastic steps to keep people away. Signs were posted, barriers erected, and legal measures put in place to forbid entry. It wasn't simply about protecting the forest or preventing trespassing. It was about keeping the curse contained, or at least that's what many believe. The once inviting roads to the village are now lined with "No trespassing" warnings, and those brave, or foolish, enough to ignore them quickly learn that Dudleytown is not a place for visitors. The ban on trespassing isn't just a formality. Locals speak of it in hushed tones, warning outsiders that those who venture too close risk more than a fine or confrontation. There are stories of unexplained accidents, sudden illnesses, even disappearances tied to those who ignore the warnings. The very act of crossing into the village's remains is said to awaken something ancient and vengeful. A presence that doesn't tolerate intrusion. It's as if the land itself rebels against human footsteps, refusing to be disturbed by curious eyes or wandering souls. This sense of forbidden territory adds another layer to the village's mystery. The fact that Dudleytown is illegal to visit only fuels the fire of intrigue, making it a dark magnet for thrill-seekers, ghost hunters, and conspiracy theorists. It's a place that beckons the curious, promising secrets buried beneath layers of silence and shadow, but only at great risk. The warnings and restrictions become part of the legend itself, creating an aura of danger that surrounds the village like a physical barrier. Residents in nearby towns often share stories about the village, cautioning outsiders with tales that are half warning, half plea. "Don't go near Dudleytown," they say, their voices low and serious. "It's not safe. Something there isn't right." Some describe an eerie feeling that spreads beyond the village borders, a heaviness that touches the nearby forests and fields, reminding everyone that Dudleytown's curse hasn't been contained by fences or legal papers. Even those who don't believe in curses or ghosts find the warnings unnerving, unable to deny the strange patterns of misfortune that have plagued anyone connected to the land. For many, the illegality of visiting Dudleytown feels like a desperate attempt to protect people from the darkness, a way to keep the curse from spreading. But for others, it only deepens the mystery. Why would such strict measures be necessary if this were just an abandoned village? What is it about Dudleytown that authorities want to keep hidden? The answers remain locked away, buried under layers of fear, silence, and legal red tape. The restrictions have not stopped everyone. Despite the risks, some still sneak into the ruins, driven by curiosity or obsession. But almost all who do return changed, marked by a deep unease, haunted by experiences they can't explain. The village refuses to be forgotten, and the law is just one of many boundaries guarding its dark heart. Dudleytown stands as a chilling reminder that some places are meant to remain untouched, that some doors should never be opened. Over time, as the dark stories and strange happenings around Dudleytown multiplied, those who owned the land took drastic steps to keep people away. Signs were posted, barriers erected, and legal measures put in place to forbid entry. It wasn't simply about protecting the forest or preventing trespassing. It was about keeping the curse contained, or at least that's what many believe. The once inviting roads to the village are now lined with "No trespassing" warnings, and those brave, or foolish, enough to ignore them quickly learn that Dudleytown is not a place for visitors. The ban on trespassing isn't just a formality. Locals speak of it in hushed tones, warning outsiders that those who venture too close risk more than a fine or confrontation. There are stories of unexplained accidents, sudden illnesses, even disappearances tied to those who ignore the warnings. The very act of crossing into the village's remains is said to awaken something ancient and vengeful, a presence that doesn't tolerate intrusion. It's as if the land itself rebels against human footsteps, refusing to be disturbed by curious eyes or wandering souls. This sense of forbidden territory adds another layer to the village's mystery. The fact that Dudleytown is illegal to visit only fuels the fire of intrigue, making it a dark magnet for thrill-seekers, ghost hunters, and conspiracy theorists. It's a place that beckons the curious, promising secrets buried beneath layers of silence and shadow, but only at great risk. The warnings and restrictions become part of the legend itself, creating an aura of danger that surrounds the village like a physical barrier. Residents in nearby towns often share stories about the village, cautioning outsiders with tales that are half warning, half plea. "Don't go near Dudleytown," they say, their voices low and serious. "It's not safe. Something there isn't right." Some describe an eerie feeling that spreads beyond the village borders, a heaviness that touches the nearby forests and fields, reminding everyone that Dudleytown's curse hasn't been contained by fences or legal papers. Even those who don't believe in curses or ghosts find the warnings unnerving, unable to deny the strange patterns of misfortune that have plagued anyone connected to the land. For many, the illegality of visiting Dudleytown feels like a desperate attempt to protect people from the darkness, a way to keep the curse from spreading. But for others, it only deepens the mystery. Why would such strict measures be necessary if this were just an abandoned village? What is it about Dudleytown that authorities want to keep hidden? The answers remain locked away, buried under layers of fear, silence, and legal red tape. The restrictions have not stopped everyone. Despite the risks, some still sneak into the ruins, driven by curiosity or obsession. But almost all who do return changed, marked by a deep unease, haunted by experiences they can't explain. The village refuses to be forgotten, and the law is just one of many boundaries guarding its dark heart. Dudleytown stands as a chilling reminder that some places are meant to remain untouched, that some doors should never be opened. The weight of its secrets and the power of its curse continue to warn us. Some mysteries are best left alone.